there were so many microbiologists out there who rejected our results. I said, what do you mean? They said it's not possible. They were like that because it is a microorganism based. So how can it fight against another microbe? But he realized that is the ecosystem, how it works, the pathogens and the beneficial microbes. I'm born and brought up in Mysore and did my engineering in polymer science and technology. And after marriage, moved to Bangalore. And my dad was from a farmer's family, and he was the first one from his village to actually get a post-graduation and start working. So when we grew up, it was just once a year we would visit the villages. That also stopped after we were in high school because it got a little awkward. And then I think it was almost after my daughter was born, when she was 2 years old, in 98, she was born. And in 2000, when she was 2 years old, is when her skin allergies started. Severe eczema, she had severe dry skin. So it would aggravate with, eating simple things like a cream biscuit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that is when we started treatment with a homeopath because her pediatrician put her on a steroid-based cream, skin cream, which after the third day she was throwing up water. Even water she couldn't hold in her stomach. And that was what really got me thinking on what's happening. And that is when we went to the homeopath, and the pediatrician never told us it was a steroid in that, but he told us not to apply it beyond 3 days continuously. Okay. But within the third day only she started reacting, and for a 2-year child not to keep food itself is trouble, not to keep water in her stomach is even more complicated.
Correct. Yeah.
So that was when we started seeing the homeopath, and that was when he started slowly explaining to us how everything we eat, and more than what we eat, more than what we apply on our skin, how it affects our health. And also in the case of dry skin, the explanation was the largest part of our body is the skin, which is connected with the lungs. And this took us almost 2 to 3 years for me to understand this whole thing. So it was literally opening my eyes to how everything around us is interconnected with us and our well-being. So it was a completely educative journey because we were like, both of us were working. And it was like morning rush and, all the packaged foods in the fridge. So just do something, get the kids going. Of course, there was help at home, but most of the food is like early morning by 7:30 if they have to leave the house.
Right.
Things are always packaged foods and whatever they quickly eat, right? To encourage them to finish. So from there, it was like totally shifting towards cooking the food fresh and looking at where the food is coming from. So everything became a huge task. So all that took us almost 7 years to even figure out and change the lifestyle. It did not happen overnight.
Right.
But it took me some 3 years to understand what was reacting with her. And a lot of things, like she couldn't wear any synthetic fabric. She could only wear cotton. And then I realized even in cotton, there were some colors she was reacting to. And then we realized even if it is cotton, the synthetic colors used are all heavy chemicals. So these were all like little things, but very, very critical for her. She couldn't even function every day. And that was the starting point for my eyes opening. And then I had an opportunity to work with Greenpeace in 2006. I took a sabbatical from work, had an opportunity to work with them. And that was when I really understood the development issues. And the so-called development is not at all development. It's what I understood. And I actually, at the end of 1 year, I went into depression. But I did not know at that moment. I fell ill and there were a lot of health issues because I was in depression, because everything seemed so bleak. And they were talking about, number of days towards when irreversibly the emissions will change and the global warming point till beyond tipping point, right?
Yeah.
So then I realized, oh my God, as a human being, if we don't have hope, we can't survive.
That's true. Yeah.
So at the end of 1 year, my contract with them finished and I jumped right back into corporate, and I asked my earlier employer to give me a green IT role. And they also wanted me back by that time. So they gave me that opportunity, and I realized it is we who have to ask. And since then, I have been trying to look at solutions. And that was how, so in the Greenpeace duration is when I understood about sustainable development, how it is an oxymoron as well, because there is nothing, you can't keep progressing. But as a human race, I felt that we are nowhere progressing. We are actually digressing from whatever our elders taught us. And all the knowledge that they had, the sewage and the waste, they would never defecate near the water bodies. And the defecation, if it happened in my own dad's village, it would happen on the dry lands. When and that was not most of the time used, but when it rained, they would plow and grow a lot of the dicotyledons, which were actually the rain-fed crops. And they were highest in nutrition and immunity boosters. So your entire waste was back into the soil. And in fact, I use it in my workshops also. If anyone has pets, dogs, they dog walk, right? So if the dog defecates on the soil, it disappears in 2 to 3 days.
Right.
Because the microbes in the soil, the insects will, there is just nutrition for them, they'll eat it up. But if that same thing is on the cement, it just dries up and it stays there, but still it dries up and the smell stops. So this we can compare it with the sewage that is running in all our cities. The minute we mix it with water, we are using water as a carrier to carry it out of the city. And even after water treatment, wastewater treatment, it goes and joins our water bodies. So in the case of Bangalore, all the sewage is running into a river called Vrishabhavati, and that is further going into in Kaveri River. And further downstream, we are drawing the drinking water for the entire city. And when I realized in 2006, we were attending a lot of meetings here, and one of the elders, who had worked in the pollution control board, he actually did the presentation, and that was when I discovered what we assumed was a sewer was actually a river. And the river's name was Vrishabhavati, and it runs just next to where I live. Half a kilometer from where I live. And that was what made me to think that, every drop that whatever we put into our commode matters, whatever we flush down matters. So that is where we thought, okay, let us explore how we can reduce. One, switching to a dry toilet was one of the options. The other was, anyway, the chemicals will continue. So that is where we looked at the natural cleaners, and all these came much later. But this was the kind of trigger that happened. It did not happen overnight, the solution, and I was still working. And there were a lot of things that needed to be resolved. Then I got aware about the UN, the Sustainable Development Goals, then the Millennium Development Goals, and how corporates are looking at the GRI, the Global Reporting Index, and everything is voluntarily declaring. So in 2010, I got a role to drive the strategic initiative across the organization. I was that time with Satyam, which is Mahindra Satyam now. Now it's called Tech Mahindra. So there I was part of the business consulting team always. I'm not a techie. I was from the business process re-engineering. I started my career with them in 98 in the BPR team. Then we were in the balance scorecard and management consulting. So it was always about the business and, questioning everything. And that was the way we were trained. So it was very easy for me to look at the systemic view, right? It was not about the nitty-gritties alone. So I was able to get that big picture view very easily. So then we started, then I also understood a lot of them. So 2010 and 11, 2 years I worked in the sustainability initiative, where we were looking at this upselling the existing service offerings. Both of you are in IT, so you understand. So initially it was about energy efficiency offerings, that was very easy. Then we also started looking at the entire product life cycle, how the tools can be enabled to look at alternates for the components. So your entire product life cycle had to shift from a cradle to grave model to a cradle to cradle. So these were the kind of models that I put together, and then we were asking for some investment to happen, because there were some things that we had to really do to be able to pitch to the customers, and that was where the investment did not happen. And parallelly, I also found out about Auroville. that they are exploring a futuristic model of living. This workshop was happening about exploring the sustainable future. And one of my senior leaders at Satyam recommended I attend that workshop. And it was like my inner voice clearly said, if you're going there, you're not coming back to this job. And by that time, I was already reviewing the GRI of several organizations. So we realized that Europe was at least committing to do the changes by 2020. This was in 2011. Right. But US was nowhere near even acknowledging that they needed to change their strategies. And most of the GRI reports we saw was sustainability was a CSR activity. They weren't really concerned about it as a core product strategy. They weren't really looking at switching. And also realized that entire supply chain, if you see, you can't change your entire component overnight, right? It's literally to shut down your business and start another one. So for me, it was really a time to make a call saying that. Then that was when I started realizing, personally, I was going through a lot of changes. So I started using the soap nuts, the shigekai, and then I realized the way my grandmother lived their lives, you know, they didn't need money at all. Everything came from around them, right? From the cleaners to food to everything. And they were very well off. They weren't in poverty. They were very well off.
Yeah. True.
So that is where the whole definition of poverty was also another question. And I ended up attending one of the UN conferences, and one of the officials there said, I asked them who coined this definition for poverty? Why is it linked to GDP? And why is it linked to spending power? Then he said that was the World Bank which coined it. And then it all made sense. Because you want to lend your money and you want to make money. So the whole thing for me was like, oh my God, where are we? So fundamental foundation only sort of was shaky for me. So I had to search for answers. And somewhere I also started feeling that the way our grandparents lived is where the answers are, and the traditionally used products where the raw materials are abundantly available around us was one of the answers, was what I strongly felt. And that is where the sustainable future was, and decided to go for this workshop. So then I quit my work 2 days before the workshop was to happen. That was my last working day. And that 1 week we spent there, we just spent 1 week, not a lot of time. So every day we were meeting one practitioner, you know. So these are people from 40 plus countries from all over the world. There are physicists, there are scientists, there are alternate education people exploring, all kinds of people who are very well educated. But what they are doing there is exploring whatever their expertise is, they are bringing it into making it more sustainable. One. Second, they also practice the spiritual thing of whatever you find in your meditative state, they try to bring it down into the wakeful state. That is Aurobindo's integral yoga, which they are trying to practice. So it's not that, you know, few minutes you get that tranquil state, but in everything that you do, you're completely conscious and grounded with the earth. And that, at that moment, I did not understand, but we could feel there was the intensity with which they were engaging with everything that they did was amazing. And we got to meet each one of them, which otherwise was not possible if we were to walk in as a visitor. And that had a profound impact on me. And so there we met, you know, one group was on where they had revived the entire rocky sand bed into a forest. So this was Bernard, Pebble Garden is what they are called now. They've revived the forest. It is not a large patch of land, but it's that experiment, you know, with which they have brought that back. And you got to interact with them, Deepika and Bernard. And there they were actually urinating into the charcoal. And that was what was used back for the plants, you know, that would retain the moisture and the urea. And it's like they asked us to smell the charcoal. And I was like, I was hesitant. So one of the other participants picked it up and just put it in front of my nose. And I smelled camphor in it. I was very puzzled. So that was when Deepika explained to me, those are the microbes that are present in it. That's what gave that camphor smell. So these small things, right? And then one more learning for me was, if a plant has a pest attack, fix the soil, fix the nutrition, don't attack the pest. This is totally reverse of what you're taught.
Yeah.
Then another group we met was sewage treatment. He was a physicist from France, and he talked about water has memory. Masaru Emoto's experiments. Have you heard of that?
Not
I
really.
have.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot to
Okay, let
read
me
after this.
quickly share that screen.
Sure.
So these are the examples that he has done, experiments on when a nice word is spoken to the word and they've immediately frozen it and taken. Anyway, you can look this up later. Masaru Emoto is his name, okay? He's a physicist from Japan. He's done a lot of documentation. So basically this correlated with, if our body is also more than 70% water, what we think or whatever we imagine, it is all shaping our lives. One. Second, all the water on earth is interconnected. It's been through the cycle several times. So water has memory was something that he tries to, and this was like a mind-boggling thing for us. And this was what triggered my whole work. All my work is on water. And this is the other sewage treatment plant that they have next to their guest house. If you see, that is like a fountain.
Yeah, layered.
This one, the layout. Yeah. So here again, they have done what is called a water dynamization method. And here in the fountains, one stream comes clockwise, another comes anti-clockwise. And when the two streams merge, the water molecular vibration increases by 10 to the power 6 times. And this is the water purification method that they used. And they have the physics developments, the experiment results documented. And based on this, they've created the water filter, which uses the same dynamization method. And these are all the things that were introduced to us. And here they use combination of dynamization plus aquatic plants, which actually absorb the waste as that is nutrient for them. And the water that comes out of this is equal to drinking quality water. Of course, they use it for gardening, but these were the things that really taught us. And then one more thing he introduced us to was the effective microorganisms. So what is called the EM solution, like beer, but it has a very short shelf life of 1 month. And that was what got our entire work on bioenzymes started. And these two were my trigger for starting all the work that I am doing. And there were some energy spots in his garden that we experienced as well. Anyway, I won't go into that because that is beyond our 5 senses. But these were all the triggers for me.
So, Smitha, just one question regarding that purification system that you just showed us, the fountain. So the water coming into it, like, did it have like chemicals and like or was it already like just organic kind of a waste?
Yeah. So whatever is in the toilet flushed down from their guest house, that is treated in this.
Got it.
Yeah, and some of them sometimes end up, they try not to tell them not to use the chemicals, but I think some of them do use it. They first treat it with the effective microorganism solution where everything sediments. Then the top layer is then run through the water dynamization process and then the aquatic plants.
So, like gathering that sort of insights earlier, like where you kind of understood how the systems in environment work and what are the different systems that humans have developed to kind of restore and damage the planet in itself. So gathering those ideas, working with those people, like how did Pranapoorna actually born? Like, having those ideas in brains are like, it's a good thing, but like realization, how did that happen and what was the whole process?
Yeah, so then after that, it was a heavily spiritual experience for me. I don't know, there were a lot of changes happening with me, and there were also other, during the workshop, all 4 days, it was all science-based solutions that were introduced to us, including natural farming without tilling the land, using seed balls to all this effective microorganism solution for the increasing the microbes in the soil rather than increasing the fertilizer in the soil. So things like that. And fifth day was introduction to the actual spiritual. So there were some experiments that they helped us with, and there were experiences that we were made to go through, and those were all triggers for me. So till then it was like I'm not a religious person, and I was not even spiritual. But then but before that, a year before that, things had started happening, and I did not know a lot of things, how I knew some of the things. And yes, so in the following 2 years, I went into huge withdrawal. I don't know if it's relevant here, but this was part of my process.
No, ma'am. This is very important.
Yeah.
You are being so open and honest is like very important.
Yeah, and it's very important because there are a lot of folks currently in this state.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a.
Yeah. Okay. So it was like, for me, it was very difficult because I just didn't feel like talking to anybody. I didn't even want to take phone calls, and I have 2 children. And somehow I think I just felt like staying at home, doing nothing. I didn't want to leave the house, but their school was there, their morning breakfast, everything. I was somehow managing everything, and I didn't want to have conversations. So the children, I had explained to them, and somehow they understood. I would put on music, and I think that was the time I started learning Carnatic music, because I somewhere felt that if I don't start, I will go mad. So some things like inner voice had started whispering things, and I started listening. So it was, and for 2 years, I just allowed myself to be, and I would put reminders on my phone to keep track of the things that I had to do. Otherwise, it was like a complete blank. I didn't feel happiness. I didn't feel sadness. I was just feeling dead to everything. It was like, now I understand in the yogic terms, it's called Shunya phase. I was in that phase. And then I started reading up a lot. There were these, during my stay at Auroville, I was drawn to Aurobindo's Synthesis of Yoga, that book, and that acted like a Bible to me. So it was like, there were times I would just open a random page and whatever question I had in my head would be answered. And for me, logically, everything had to be explained. I was not ready to accept and move with whatever I felt or whatever my intuition was telling me. And then I searched for a mentor or whoever could decode what was going on with me. And there were dreams, there were experiences I had to understand. And that was when I found, I was introduced to this Bihar School of Yoga in Bangalore branch. And they asked me to sign up for the 1 month yoga from the beginning. Though I had done it in 2006, they asked me to redo it once more. And I had several experiences in what they call Yoga Nidra. It is nothing but Shavasana. Are you both familiar with yoga?
Little bit. Yeah.
We haven't practiced it. Yeah,
Shavasana. So Yoga Nidra is like Shavasana, but it's like also guided. In the Shavasana, you literally look at your body and you relax and stuff. So there were some experiences that happened there and a lot of triggers for me. So then he recommended I meet this center head. And she happened to be a psychiatrist from Nimhans before. And before she had these experiences. And then I went to see her, and she was conducting the Upanishad classes, and she told me to attend one of that. She had stopped practicing her doctor thing. But the husband, her husband, still both of them together were running the daycare for the mentally ill and whoever needed a daycare kind of setup. So they're listening, that was the first time I was listening to anything with the scriptures. The Isha Upanishad was the first class, and somehow the way she was, everything made sense to me, right? Whatever she was trying to say, it's like, oh yes, this is what it is. And after this session of 1 hour, then she sat with me and asked. And then she accepted to be my mentor and spend time with me. But there again, if I asked her one question, she would ask me 2 questions. It was never an answer, right? So it was for me to figure out. And that way she was amazing. She was Dr. Usha Mohan, and her spiritual name is Swami Dharmakirti. And she also shared a lot of her own journeys, right? And how she personally went through this and she had to figure out what was happening. And that was how she got introduced to Bihar School of Yoga. And she was trying to set the local branch here in order. So that was a long journey, and it was definitely not easy. It's you literally break you down. It literally break you down. Your ego, everything. So whatever I thought I was no longer. So hugely, what's the word for that? It's like I changed as a person. I used to use a lot of makeup before that, and for me it was like using nothing. And then, that was the time I switched to neem sticks because my gums would bleed if I used toothpaste. So my body became sensitive. It was no longer about my daughter alone. It was me becoming sensitive to a lot of smells, things that I couldn't touch. I couldn't touch the soap, even the handmade soaps, right, which use lye. I can't touch it, burns my skin. That was when I had to use a lot of, have you heard of castor oil?
Yeah.
So traditionally that grows as a weed all over South. Does it also grow in Gujarat?
Yeah. So castor oil basically,
like,
we sometimes it's even farmed as well. Like, some people farm it castor.
So the body heat, because of the changes that I was going through, body heat was very, very high. And I went back to as a child, we used to get the castor oil on the top of the head, right? At least once a week, that would reduce the body heat, and on the body sometimes. So that was something that helped me immensely. And to wash that off, it's not possible with shampoo. Right. So then you had to bring back shigekai and soap nut. And then I was allergic to the powder. If I start sneezing, it would become like one long drawn cold. So one of my other school friends told me about using the whole pods of shigekai and soap nut, soaking it overnight, boiling it in the cooker, filtering it, and using that as the shampoo. And that worked fantastic. So it took me almost 3 years to switch my personal consumption, right? So for washing the clothes, started using the soap nuts. And at that time, I was doing karate also, because the kids were, anyway, I had to take the children. 2007, I had started karate. My immunity was so low that anyway, I was going to with the kids and waiting outside. Instead of waiting, I asked the sensei if he would allow me, because childhood we grew up with Bruce Lee's movies. Yeah. And that was one of the movies my mom would take us. And suddenly this was like, for me, okay, I never knew I had a wish, but it was there. So that really brought my stamina up. So by 2012, 2013, I was practicing karate also. And that, I think, probably helped me stabilize a little bit the energies, but it was going to a different level. My rage was also getting out of control. So I stopped because I did not know how to.
Yeah.
And then I started Bharatanatyam classes. That is the classical dance form where it's more of yourself.
Yeah.
And by that time, yoga also was, I was introduced to yoga through Carnatic music. And I got to know about Shankaracharya's works, and I started understanding. I started reading up a lot. And there were compositions in 2006, 2007, when I started the Carnatic music. There were some compositions when I sang, I felt better. So I actually went back and read up on those and on the composers on their life's journeys. So that was how I realized there was one person called Muthuswami Dikshitar. He's one of the trinities of South Indian classical music. He was trained in yogic practices, and he has composed a lot of the compositions so that when you sing it, your chakras are vibrating with the same. So there are also a series he's created on the Navavarnas. So like our 9 sheets of the body. So for me, yoga and music, through music, I got my Sri Vidya Upasana. If you're familiar with the term, or what I would call it, it's also called as Devi Upasana. Shakti worship. Okay, it happened to me through the body, through my life. It's not a religious practice, but it's like all of my life is dedicated to that. So that was when I strong need to farm, and that was when we bought the land in 2011. And my dad is a farmer, but for me, I never gone back to the land. But in 2011, I bought, so it's closer to the city, 1 hour from here, and I started working on the soil. Okay. Literally, I had to touch the soil to feel calm down and cool. My body cooled off a lot. So even till date, I now go once a week. I do barefoot farming wherever possible. Normally, whole day I spend by myself.
Right.
The workers come later. I give them instruction. There is a couple who come from the neighboring farm who work on the land. It's a natural farm, and all the products we make, the skincare, is from the coconut trees that we grow there.
Right.
Also, the coconut, whatever falls down, we built a mud hut to store it. And that mud hut also, there is a coverage. I can send the feedback, Facebook link.
Right.
Yeah, there was no water when we bought the land. And that was when I went into deep thinking of what is happening. Because they had a famine kind of a situation. The borewells in the village were also running dry. And in Bangalore also, a lot of borewells were running dry. And that was when I started to try and understand, but it was more of thinking deeply, questioning how to bring back water for the children. Suddenly I felt so guilty that our grandchildren may not even have access to drinking water. And if you keep mixing sewage into all of this, and by that time also we had understood the anthropology studies, right? I had met another group at Navadarshanam. So one of the anthropologists there, he was an anthropologist who was a professor, and then he explained how every place we have a desert today used to be a thriving civilization once upon a time. And two reasons why it happened is one is irrigation, one is sewage. Because we inundate the soil with water, we're killing all the microbes. So the microbes, even the earthworms, can't survive. And when that happens, naturally, when it is exposed to sun, it turns into a desert over the years. And this is the current state. So unless we reverse the soil microbe situation, desertification is going to increase. And that was where I have that other chart also on land reuse. I will probably send it across later for you guys. Yeah. So then in 2014-15, we started another organization called Soil and Soul. That was another karate friend of mine, and she wanted to start children's workshops. That was when we came across the bioenzyme online from Dr. Rosukan, Thailand. She introduced it to bring back the soil microbes. And I started personally experimenting with only the citrus peel enzymes and a combination with soap nuts. And that was how we came up with the detergent and our shampoos, and all that happened, where the shelf life was extended of each of the product. Then the skin butter also, we realized whatever was there on the farm, then the way we process it to extend its shelf life. That was the whole idea, was everything, how to extend the shelf life without adding preservatives. And a lot of times intuition helped. And that was how I got Samrani into this recipe. Samrani is a tree resin that naturally enhances the shelf life. It's like a natural preservative. And its medicinal properties are huge. And it's also, of course, spiritually, it helps the person grow. And we use that as the fragrance in our healing skin butter. So this is how, see, for me personally, I started using these products. And then there were some of my friends. By that time, I was able to go out and do workshops. Then they wanted to listen to whatever I had to say. And initially, we only started with do-it-yourself workshops. We would do it in these, what is called composting flea markets would happen.
Yeah.
There we were doing it as free stall, free learning, and we were demoing how the bioenzyme and the soap nuts can be used at home, and you can switch to natural cleaners. And then we started learning. There were one set of people who were already composting, who just loved the smell of the bioenzyme. There were another set who were still using all the fragrances, who just hated the bioenzyme. And that was when we started figuring out how to improvise the smell, but there was only so much you could do with the bioenzyme smell. It's like basic. Then there were people who started to say, hey, why don't you start selling it? Because I don't have the time to make it. I completely believe in this. And that was when we were doing workshops for BBMP. BBMP is our corporation workers locally, and Anganwadi workers, right? And everywhere we went, they were all like, you create the market for us, we can make it for you and give. We don't have the time to do it for ourselves. And these are all people who who grew up with shigakai, soap nuts, but right now they said we don't have the time for it. There is no place because they are also working outside. They're also taking care of their homes. And then they said, you create the space for us. We don't have any place at home either. So then we thought, so it went about like a pyramid. The first was the do-it-yourself crowd. And every time we did a workshop, we encouraged people to conduct workshops on their own. Like after 3 months, they're comfortable with what happens when you do this, what happens when you do that, right? So that way, I think the community grew.
Yeah, Smitha, I just have one question. Like, regarding making this initial, like, buy yourself the products, right? Were you doing it at home only, or like you needed any other accessories?
No, at home only.
Completely home. Okay.
One 200-liter barrel will hardly take up 3 by 3 feet, okay? And that you can produce 150 liters. And today the livelihood projects that we have trained 10 by 10 square feet can produce 1.5 tons in a.
Okay.
So
that's
hardly anything required. It's like almost nil. And this is the model that we are exploring, where instead of investing in a centralized production and increasing your capex and your cost of the production, we are looking at a distributed model across the country, where micro units can come up, and where now we have established this model where 95% product will be made by the livelihood project. We will provide them the 5% concentrate, which has our essential oil also in it, and our IP protocol. We can't disclose it at the moment. That increases the disinfectant property and gives the fragrance of the pure essential oils. So the cost we are able to beat for less than 100 with this livelihood model. So we can replace the chemicals. This is the next set. Two pilots are running. One is with the collaboration with Sahas NGO also. So now we are ready to scale up across the country.
very interesting. So even the price wise, like the product will be more affordable than like, or at least affordable.
Yeah. So when a livelihood project does it, right, for them, even if they sell it to their neighbor at 60 rupees a liter, they'll still make money with our added fragrance. So 60 rupees a liter, they'll beat any Lysol or any colored local cleaner. Any phenol they can beat, right? And even if they sell it at with a 25% margin to their whoever wants to promote, 95 rupees a liter, we'll still beat the chemical prices.
How did this like distributed center did you like how did that model came up? Like is it
community model was something that came through what do you call that? Consciousness writing. And this came to me in 2014, 2015 itself. And that's what I said. I had to then look at implementing it also. It was not just about expecting somebody else to do this just came to me, and I just sat at it, right? I was still in the silent phase when this happened. So one is going inside. So this is what's around me and what's on my plate. So these were all the initiatives that we identified, and water rejuvenation in that natural cleaners is just one bullet. And we were also supposed to do the khadi weaving, a lot of things experimented. I have a box charka also. So sustainable sanitation is another big area which architects like Biome are already working on, something they're implementing in the city. So we use this workshop to talk about these solutions. So what I also realized is emotional sustainability is more important than environmental sustainability. Because I personally went through the depression phase. I understand that as a mother, it was very painful for me to have put the children out into this situation. And I realized now why a lot of the European mothers don't want to have kids, because they don't think the atmosphere is right to bring a younger one into this. So I did not force anybody at home. And in every workshop, we tell everyone, don't force other people. You start doing, when they are ready, they'll come. And I also strongly feel now, whoever is connected to the earth will naturally tune themselves to this, because they start becoming sensitive to smells, sensitive to everything they touch and feel. So naturally, they start realizing what is in harmony with their being and what is not. Because it has to come automatically for them. And when their time comes, they will come. Now I understand. This is because figuring out the universe is, this is not the only way, and to connect to the universe. This, I mean, I accept, I mean, whatever they choose, everybody can have their choices. If they love fragrances, if they love chemicals, so be it. Earth can deal with it. But we are destroying our ecosystem. We can't destroy the earth. We are destroying our ecosystem. So, but now I am in my journey. I meditate. I meditate in the mud hut that we built. And I also didn't mention to you, we create, so all my work is on water, okay? One is, this is an urban project, what we do through PraanaPoorna, where we do the natural cleaners. This is to make sure that we reduce the chemicals that go into the sewage and our living spaces become safer. So we are also experimenting with replacing all that we use in our daily lives. So now we have a mosquito repellent, we have a disinfectant. Thanks to the pandemic, we were able to get into that. So we have a hospital grade antimicrobial solution ready, which is actually import substitute. But we are not able to break it to the hospitals because of this entire branding, distribution, the whole thing. It's a different game altogether. We try to talk to investors, but I am not ready for that entire, because that is a different kind of B2B kind of setup, right? So the other work on what I do is on the land, we created a sacred grove. Quarter acre was dedicated for this, where some of the rare endangered species are planted. Most of them are medicinal and local, native to India. And I also had help. So there was one more project we visited at Auroville called the Pichadikulam forest. They have researched into Siddha system of medicine, which is the predominant one in Tamil Nadu. So for example, in that medicine system, you and me have a cold. But for you, depending on your birth star, they'll give a different medicine from a different tree. And for me, I'll get it from a different tree. So that was the level to which the treatment was customized. And they worked through intuition. So these were all the things. And I got introduced to FRLHT in Bangalore through them, who was already working on reviving. They were interviewing the traditional healers and documenting on all these, from shrubs to tree species to aquatic plants, all the Ayush, right? The government supports, that is the certification we need to take for all natural products now.
Achha.
This method, medicinal systems, whatever source of plant they have, FRLHT has documented on that and created a nursery in Bangalore. So all the saplings for the sacred grove were sourced from there. And I got Ganesh Babu, who has set it up there, to actually choose the sacred grove. I did the layout. The center of that is a people tree. So that's another energy center. So that quarter acre we don't enter. That is dedicated for the snakes and the birds. After 2 years of making it, I understood when the leaf mulch falls, the morning dew collects on the leaves, right, on the trees. And that, when it falls onto the ground, because of the leaf mulch layer, it percolates deep into the ground. And we have sacred groves. So we have several of these sacred groves across the country, even now. Can you see this?
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to share this with you. So this was a traditional practice of how they conserved the biodiversity of the tree species and the ecosystem. And these always recharged the groundwater. There was always a well or a pond nearby, and without rain, it can catch the atmospheric moisture. And this is what I realized 2 years after making the sacred grove. And this is a practice that we are trying to mainstream as well. But I had to do it as an experiment and to showcase about this. I mean, whatever came to me, started working on it. And the other experiment that Bhutan has done is below here. They connected all their forests with corridors so that the wild animals could migrate easily. Otherwise, if there is a forest fire, you are killing all of them. And we were doing a school project also. So when we were explaining this, they all wanted to connect all the forests, and they were okay with converting the cities back into forests. The solution is so simple when we are 10-year-old, right? We get educated as we grow.
Yeah.
So this was the other work. And the third one is about shifting our consumption. For example, the minute you shift from paddy to millets, your water consumption comes down by 1/10. Because the water used to grow millets is so little. Even if you inundate it with water, it will die. And the minute you don't inundate it with water, you're not killing the microbes, so you don't need to pump it with external fertilizers or pesticides. So the whole ecosystem is more balanced. And yes, then by also looking at tree-based foods, shifting more towards that. And so those are all the experiments. So on the land now, I have also planted along the fence, the samrani tree, the dhupa trees. Then there is all this kind of spices. So we are experimenting with what can be grown easily, what cannot be grown. Whatever we consume for our medicines and foods, we're trying to see if we can create a patch of land. And whenever, what we recommend is that instead of planting one tree, plant a cluster, even if it is in your neighborhood park, so that that is a dedicated space for the biodiversity and the water percolation can happen. So the rainwater can easily go into the ground. And these are the kind of things. So these need to be done in the long run. And there are enough solutions available. It's just a matter of our choice. And the other thing you can check with Biome is zero discharge homes. They design zero discharge homes. So where all the rainwater is collected, Vishwanath is, he's called Rain Man also. Yeah. So his wife Chitra is the architect who was trained by this Laurie Baker. And they run this Biome. There is a bunch of architects who design this zero discharge homes. So they collect entire rainwater, and with the combination of dry toilets, not a single drop goes out of the house. And they do it in urban spaces also. So, so I was explaining to you the pyramid, right? So bottom of the pyramid is do it yourself. So once we did with that, we moved on to the next, where we had to provide these products on the shelves and tying up the livelihood projects, so that one is we are not really falling into the commercial, we are not becoming a typical brand.
Right.
It is easy. Once you go that route, you can't come back. And that is where we formed a collective. So the people that we were actually 35 people across the country when we started the do-it-yourself workshops. Even now our Facebook group is called Bioenzyme Local Produce. So we came together to sell it locally in our, wherever flea markets were happening. But then we moved on to commercializing the whole thing with fragrance, and people who are willing to sell only got together here. So only 3 of us got together. And that was the time we went to IMB and SR Cell. We got mentored, and outcome of that was the LLP, PraanaPoorna LLP. That was 3 years old now. Right. But 1 year before that, we got featured on Better India. And that was what got us the initial sale, and they listed us on their platform, the Better India shop, and later it became Carnival. And later they shut it down and started their own Better Home range.
Yeah.
Fantastic response for the natural trees. But they went with a part synthetic also. The fragrances weren't, because they had to look at the market readiness.
And that's the question I actually also had, like, because looking at this industry in general, it's a very chemical heavy industry, right? Like, that's where people start. Okay, if you need a cleaner, like, you name a particular chemical that you wanted, right? How are you like trying to bring in sustainability to the chemical heavy industry?
So it was like, for me, the answers came from, that's why I call myself a spiritual ecologist. I'm not trained ecologist. I'm actually a polymer engineer and now doing this. But I think probably I went into the molecular level of figuring out. So one is, even till date, we don't know what's the molecular structure of the bioenzyme we make. We tried to find out, okay, we did one of the biotech engineering college did a full project, but they only did guesswork. Even the spectrograph, they weren't able to do to get what is in the molecular level, because they said it's like, we have to get in touch with ISC or heavy academic institution, and research has to be done on over the period of 3 months of the fermentation process, what happens. So then we realized academic is not our interest. What we wanted was practical application, and then we went after all the lab tests that a chemical gets done, right?
Mhm.
And then we went to the lab, the NABL accredited lab, which tests all the chemicals. We went to the same lab, got all the similar tests done. And because of this corona epidemic also, I think the pandemic, it was a good opportunity for us to test for the antibacterial. So also what happened initially was, when we tested our toilet cleaner, we also tried to list it on the government tender platform. Then we realized HCl content is a must, is mandatory for a toilet cleaner. And for a disinfectant, active component has to be a chemical. So we're trying to break that. And that was where our focus will be, to do all the paperwork, getting the industry acceptance. And we may have to lobby with the Indian standards also to create IS standards. And this is all the feedback that we have received over the last 3-4 years from the Ayush board, from the NABL labs. So that was where it was suggested to us, you can't have a HCl acid content because that is the mandate. So go for an antimicrobial test. And that was how we ended up doing the antibacterial test. And we realized it has better performance than any chemical out there today. So it was mind-boggling, right? And there were so many microbiologists out there who rejected our results. I said, what do you mean? They said it's not possible. They were like that. Because it is a microorganism based. So how can it fight against another microbe? But he realized that is the ecosystem, how it works, the pathogens and the beneficial microbes. Yeah, we are yet to define it scientifically. So like my own experience, whatever you get through your intuition, your logical mind has to rationalize and accept. And that is what the lab tests are doing, to prove it that this works. So we need that scientific data, and that's what we're trying to do. We also submitted for antiviral sample. 1% of concentration and 30 seconds of exposure time costed us 1 lakh for a test. So if I have to do, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all the money we've made in the last 3 years, we've spent on the lab work. We haven't taken out, none of us have taken out money because we are okay with that, because my husband funds my living. And the other partner who is in Bangalore, she has a coffee estate. So she does this with the wild grapefruit that is grown there, and that's highly medicinal in nature. All the soap nuts are also stocked there. And we have another director who's in Mysore. He himself also produces these products and sells locally. So each one of us are literally like a micro entrepreneur coming together, and we are funding ourselves right now.
Interesting. So as of now, like, what range of products Pranapoorna has?
So we have the entire home range of cleaners. In the home range, we have the cleaner, then the laundry detergent, and the kitchen vessel cleaner is dishwash powder. We use the wood ash. We have brought back the wood ash with 25% soap nut powder, and which also cleans your bathroom taps. Fantastic. The taps become new, right? All steel surfaces. Yeah. Then the kitchen, we also aimed at replacing the SIF and the Mr. Muzzle for the chimney cleaner. Heavy degreaser. It doesn't lather a lot, but it is heavy duty work. That is the one range. Then we also realized the laundry detergent that we have, we can't compete in the laundry market, but it is highly antibacterial in nature. So it's actually a food grade. And it is for antibacterial, which like Savlon and Dettol have released now. Antibacterial laundry detergent now, which is, this is ours is the only natural one present. So positioning wise, we are still not done it correctly. We are not great at marketing. So, and we have not done a branding exercise till now, which probably it's high time we did it. Yeah. B2C market has been great for us, and whatever we have achieved till now has been completely thanks to our social media and the customers who have funded us from day one and who have believed in us. Literally their contribution is what has kept us going. Other than the initial investment, we have not done anything. We are totally bootstrapped to date. Then one is the home range of cleaners. Second is the personal care, where we just have basics. We have the hand wash and the shampoo. Then we have the skin butter. So what we've done is we've not gone into the cosmetic range. Yeah. We have replaced your paraffin wax or a petroleum jelly that you use. For example, in your Vicks Vapor Rub, we have replaced that with edible camphor in the coconut oil base. And with beeswax, you get the exact same consistency. Because the camphor quality we couldn't assure, we went for the edible camphor grade. Now this lot of babies are also using, and they're finding the exact same results like a Wix would have. So the cold, it works on all the cold. So like that, we have the healing skin butter, which is made with coconut oil, beeswax, and we use sambrani in that for both its healing property and the fragrance. Then the third one we have made with the castor oil. That again is with sambrani for fragrance. That is for hair mask. So to soften all the rough hair, because normally our shampoo ends up with a lot of dry ends. So we've had to make that as a hair mask to soften the hair instead of a conditioner, because the minute you add conditioner, it becomes water, and water-based needs preservatives. So like this alternates. This is the second category of personal care. Then we have herb-infused antifungal creams, which work on the fungal infections and mosquito repellent kind of things. Then the third category is the insect repellents, where we are looking at a natural room freshener and odor controlling. It breaks down the odor rather than just masking it. And we have a mosquito repellent, which is both for, we also provide it to a lot of the apartments. They use it in their common area gardens. There's a combination of weekly and daily spray. And it is a repellent, it's not a pesticide. It repels the mosquitoes quite effectively, and it's a daily spray. And for indoors, we have the daily spray, which is getting very good reviews. Even a chemical user wants to try this, and we've been getting very good reviews for that. Then the next category of products we came up with is pet care. So because personally, I've always had 3 to 4, currently we have 4 dogs at home. And the German Shepherds always were having a lot of skin issues. And that's when we realized we shouldn't be, do you have pets?
No.
No. Okay, so no point in explaining to you. The whole thing is you can't wash your hair every day, right? Hair fall will increase and your scalp will become dry. The same concept applies for pets. So now with our pet spray deodorizer or the pet spray, the odor control of the coat happens. Normally, pet owner, pet parent gives a bath because of the odor.
Right. Yeah.
What we did is extend the shampooing time up to 2 months, 2.5 months. And where the dogs, the skin oil has to be retained, only the coat needs to be cleaned, and it's an antimicrobial and odor controlling. Once the odor is controlled, the pet is fine. It doesn't need a shampooing. So we also have a deep cleanser. We make it with the soap nuts and the shirikai, but doesn't lather a lot. So a lot of the dog spas used it, pet parents used it. So pet parents who are hands-on pet parents love it. But the dog spas don't like it because they're the service staff who want a lot of lather and a lot of fragrance. Yeah, but overall the fragrance and the odor controlling property is amazing. The synergistic property, when the bioenzyme, the soap nuts and the essential oils come together is out of the world. I mean, just the bioenzyme doesn't work, just the essential oil doesn't work. But when the 3 come together, it's like magic.
So a lot of our friends have pets. So I think, we can definitely.
We're doing a pet campaign. 26th August is the International Pet Day. So I have one lady who has just joined us from Unilever. Like, she's joined us as a consultant, external consultant, but she was like so fed up with the chemicals that go into it that I hope we can afford to keep her. So she's going to be running this entire International Dog Day campaign for us. And see how the response will be on it.
That's absolutely right. And there are also important things to this initiative because it requires a lot of breaking of barriers into the society, that it needs like brains who have worked in like multiple domains and gone through a lot of experiences as well.
My entire corporate training has helped every step. It's literally the training, okay? It's like to get me that systemic thinking, to everything. And yes, as a person, letting go is not easy.
Yeah.
Like my brand, I want all the money to saying that, no, run it as a collective. It's a huge shift. So it's internally, when you shift from I, me, myself to thinking of the community itself, you're growing. And of course, it's a huge conflict internally to let go.
Yeah, absolutely. True. So I have a question. Like, when you say Pranapoorna's consumers, like, okay, are they coming in looking for like organic brand, or are they like moving away from chemical free brands? Like, how are people coming with a mindset? Like,
Yeah, so in our experience, we found that there are two categories of people. One who have children with allergies, and as I explained earlier, skin allergies are linked to asthma.
Right.
The lung and this, so basically the body is trying to throw out the toxins which are not filtered by the blood in the regular system. So asthma is also interlinked. So they become very hypersensitive to a lot of things. So we have parents who have been struggling with fixing their kids' issues. And then we have pet parents who have been struggling with the pets' issues of basic floor cleaner giving the itch to the pets. So that is one category of people who are already searching for chemical-free things, who try our products and who love it. And then they are, so more than 50% of our B2C customers are repeat customers.
Okay.
We have zero returns. We have 0% returns even on Amazon.
Oh, that's a great performance.
Yeah. But then sales-wise, we have to really learn a lot. I'm not a salesperson. So all my friends are now trying to pitch in and help all my old friends. So they are all giving me advice on it. They've been trying to tell me for 2 years, do your B2C pitch properly. And I have been ignoring. And now it's time, I think we have to cater to whoever is responding very well to us. We want that. They have been recommending to their friends. Also, this is one category of people, right? The other category that I'm finding is youngsters.
Okay.
Like late 20s, early 30s, who want to walk the talk. And no two thoughts about it. And these are the youngsters who are really supporting us.
Right.
And they go deeper into what is into it. And one look at, they've been trying all the products out there in the market and they call me and tell. So even if the eco-friendly cleaner, sometimes the surfactant lathers a lot. So they know it's not 100% natural. And the fragrances are like, it hits you, right? So you know it is synthetic fragrance. And I don't like to talk anti anything, but even the handmade soaps, the lye is a problem for me. And I have been, even the pollution control board, clearance is required for anyone who makes soaps with lye, because that effluent cannot be left into the sewage. It needs to be handled differently. So with all of this, there are so many brands out there. And also if you see, as per the Ayush rules, anything that's applied on the skin comes under the drug. It is considered like a drug because within 1 minute it gets into your bloodstream.
Right.
And the largest part of our body is the skin. So with all of this, the rules are there, but not it really being followed. Also because there is a lot of corruption in the whole system. And we got ourselves recently natural certified. Okay, and our products are 100% natural. So we are also now streamlining the entire upstream supply chain with the farmers. Already all our products are raw origin because we have to be sure. We buy the entire raw material in the raw form and then process it. But a lot of the other brands, they have to buy the semi-processed things from the marketplace because that is how it is. I mean, they can't always go, and it's not convenient also to go to the route. Sometimes the quantities are not always available the same. So you can't sustain the quantity. So a lot of other issues are there. So this is another big challenge. And even when we went through the certification, they told us, if 95% of all your things are natural, we will give you the naturally certified.
Right.
So I said, so 5%. You can always say, like, you have to add preservative to your product. You have to add artificial fragrance. You have to add stabilizers. That comes in the other 5%. And this Ayush board allows. European board allows.
Right.
But as a user, if you are hypersensitive, you know it.
Right. So like basically there are a lot of challenges in terms of scaling this sort of philosophy into products and products to a larger market. For you, like, what has been the major challenge? Is it developing the product, like maintaining 100% sustainable, or is it like breaking into the market and making people realize that, you know what, you have been doing this wrong for a very long time?
Yeah, I think developing the products was very easy. But we also took a lot of time to stabilize before we actually launched it into the marketplace.
Okay.
We experimented it on ourselves, gave samples to friends, constant feedback, and improvised on the fragrance. A lot of things had to be done, and we did it at our own pace. I think we didn't rush through with it. And even now, there are so many R&D I have done half and kept it, not finished it. The next one we are doing is a lye extraction from wood ash. So it is 3 months now. It is very stable without any preservatives. So that will be the next product. But all my friends are yelling at me, no more product development, focus on the sale. See, I always assume I'm not a salesperson. So I am stuck there, right? So, and also what happens is, one more advisor told us, idiotize your messaging, simplify. You're using too many scientific terminology and don't complicate. I'm like, okay, so that's what we're trying to do now.
That's a big challenge, like, you know, because it's important to tell people that how organic and how helpful it is, like to put it in a simple message and to make them logically understand.
I think 3 out of the 3 years, we've spent all the 3 years in educating people. So we've actually, whoever has bought our products, tried out and continuously buying from us and really been our advocates, thanks to them. Other than their help, we haven't done anything actively consciously. So when we did our listing, and from 3 months now, we are trying to focus on get Amazon optimized. And we realized if we put Pranapoorna with the product name, we don't even figure in when we call our own name, brand name, we're not figuring. That is the algorithm sitting there today. So it's weird. I mean, it doesn't even work. So Google My Business for acting fantastic for us. Actually, Google is, I think, probably the one untouched by the commercial. Ads still, I don't know when that will get taken over. So when Instagram was a very good response for us, when Facebook took over, it changed. Also, I think in the last 1 year, a lot of the big brands also got there. So there is an information overload, right, on the digital. So next level, what we are constantly innovating, right, and keep experimenting, going back. So the next level, what we're looking at now is the expansion. So we are looking at now calling upon entrepreneurs to join us. So this first NGO model that worked, we are also going to be opening it up soon for individual entrepreneurs, because we realized people need to market this. So we are coming up with a training program where we will provide them with our concentrate. They can make the local bioenzyme, launch it with their own brand if they want. We will put tagged powered by Pranapoorna, and we will promote them for local produce.
Right.
So that's the next level. We are looking for the pan-India increase in the production.
All right.
The cost definitely comes down more than half. And the packaging we want to do is reused it. So currently we package it, all our small containers are repurposed. We source it. There is a vendor for all the glass, and for all the plastic cola bottles, we source it from the dry waste center. We disinfect it and then package it. So that is the model we are training the NGOs as well. And any entrepreneur who comes with us for a zero plastic or a completely, so circularity is another piece that we want to bring into this. Also, we realized we aligned to 13 of the SDGs. And that was like the biggest task we took on ourselves, which slowed us down, totally slowed us down. And but then no regrets, absolutely. And we are happy with where we are today. As a brand, we never went the branding route. So our marketing expenditure was completely on the lab testing. And also when we started sharing the lab results during the pandemic, a lot of us thanked us for it, because they were making bioenzymes at home and their families were putting pressure on them to stop it. Composting were stopped in several homes. Because you're culturing microbes, you know.
Shreyas,
actually, my wife tried that. My wife tried to make a cleanser out of, I think, garlic and some other composition. I was not like in touch with her during those months, but she did try, and like my mother was like, how long will this be in the backyard, and it's starting to smell. So I think now she can probably, kind of learn more from Pranapoorna products.
Yeah,
So,
so that's the refocus we need to do. Not so much
yeah,
education, but enabling more
enabling.
people
Yeah.
now, because we can't do it ourselves. So this is the community model we will take. So we also explored if distributor model is possible, but we realized 45 to 50% of our MRP we have to give them as a margin. So your entire product pricing goes for a toss, and who takes the brunt? Neither the manufacturer gets it, nor the customer gets it. Everybody else gets their fair price. I mean, they're not doing anything unnecessary. They're doing the convenience of getting something at your doorstep has a price attached to it, right? So we want to enable more entrepreneurs now, and hope to take this. That's where the micro units will come in. This is the first time anyone is trying, I think, and hopefully we'll try.
So right now, like, what is the sort of like team size, and is it like the production happening right now also in a distributed manner, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So initially, that is how the three of us who came together were. Each one of us will produce and sell it. So only those who were confident of producing and selling came together.
Okay.
So right now, Chikmagalur, Srushti is our other partner. Whatever she produces, she sells it locally. Concentrate, essential oil, we procure centrally from Bangalore and send it across to her. The entire soap nut detergent is made at Chikmagalur. And she also makes the bioenzymes from the wild grapefruit. And there is a local resort also, eco-friendly, Shunyata, who buys from us regularly. She does the local supply.
I think and the products are like consumed across India, or is it like you are right now focused on?
So from Bangalore, I service it across Pan India, and Mysore is for local production, local consumption. Chikmagalur is also local production, local consumption. So she will also supply to a zero waste store in Chikmagalur. Then a lot of people, they will participate in local markets, and people buy directly from them. So sometimes the order happens on the website. She would have done the local delivery. Wow. So it's like we don't have any employees. We are micro entrepreneurs coming together. So all the production cost, employee cost, whatever labor she uses there, she takes the brunt of it. But she gets only 20% PraanaPoorna Collective will keep, and 80% goes to her. This is a collective model we were exploring, so where the 20% that comes to is used for all our marketing and the lab work.
Right. So
each one of us hold our own raw material inventory. Everything is our cost.
Wow. So I think that's a very modular product in general. Like, for example, if someone wants to do it in other part of India, probably I think it's a very decentralized. You don't have a dependencies on supply and demand. Like,
only thing is to sustain the quality, you need to do 3 tests are there. That needs to be done. Microbial test, we'll ask them to send us the sample and we submit it to the lab here and get that done. Once that microbial thing is cleared, they have to maintain the other 2 parameters. Then everything is fine.
Wow. Right.
And even in the NGOs now, we are tagging manufactured by that NGO.
Okay.
Because we can't guarantee their quality, right?
Yeah.
We go from there.
Usually, what I have wondered is like, okay, if we have to scale such sustainable solutions to the scale where like the normal products are used, that scale, does it even keep the production sustainable? Can we maintain like a sustainable production without like being too hard on the natural resources that are required to kind of?
Yeah, that was where the distributed production model was conceptualized. Okay. That was how the scale, within 2 months, we can scale up 10x without any capex.
Very interesting.
See, all this I accept came through intuition, and there was heavy meditation happening. But putting that into action took time. Okay. Now this was the distributed production model that we conceptualized, and this is what we're trying to implement. So if you see here, the collective will have multiple city presence, right? So we have city 1 is Bangalore, city 3 is Chikmagalur, like that. Okay. Now within city 1, we work with multiple centers. So one such is the NGO currently. So the whole thing was each one of us have what is called a co-producer. We call ourselves a co-producer. The co-producer will be certified and they will have equity with Pranapoorna, and they are responsible for the quality of all the production that happens in that cluster. So each one of this cluster is a 10 by 10 square feet space where we are training 10 people to do this. We are asking for 10 people to come together because if one person does it, if they're traveling, that needs attention every day. Right. The enzyme needs to be attended to every day. Otherwise, it can go wrong. And we are also hoping these 10 people who come together, some of them can focus on production, some of them can focus on promotion and the sale. So it's like creating that livelihood. So basically the model we are looking at now is if they are able to sell everything, they can make about 1 lakh every month. Okay. And this is additional work, right? This is not full-time work.
Yeah.
This is the model we've created. And if you see a 10 by 10 square feet, it just needs 3 weeks of cycle time for 1.5 ton to be produced. And raw material availability is plenty. We have streamlined it with black jaggery. That is different and naturally farmed and no chemical in the bleaching. All that affects the microbial content. The second one is 2 sources we found. One is the juice centers. Each center generates easily and one center can, 2 shops, juice shops can support 1 unit, 1 production unit. Or the other alternate we have is lemon is plenty available across the country. Markets, any rural marketplace also has it. The edible rejects can go in for this before the fungal attack happens. So these are the kind of quality checks, all that experiment. So during the pandemic, we did whole lemon, whole pineapple, tested each one of them separately, and we realized they got the data. So the overall antimicrobial performance is similar. Only the flavonoid content in sweet lime is much higher than anything else. Right. Because of the cellulose content and all that. Anyway, that's second. So this is the micro model. So there are 2 parameters which we tell them. So this is a 6 months hand-holding process we're talking about. And remotely also if you're doing, it will involve a bit of travel initially. And we want to have people trained across the country. And now there are like thousands of people doing my bioenzyme at home, and they are conducting workshops. Each one is trying to sell on their own as well. So we want to tap into this group for also joining us as our certified trainer. So we will be shortly announcing the certification process as well. Right. Certified by us. One group is for the certification. The other group is for entrepreneurs. So what we realized is also we need to create micro entrepreneurs because see, production is not at all a challenge now. We are on top of it. We have currently 10 tons sitting, and we are able to sell only 1 ton in the whole year. So because we were preparing for B2B, right? We were preparing for B2B. We thought it will move with the government tenders. It will move, and all that is also happening parallelly. But we had to pause on all of that and realize that we have to step up on marketing. Yeah. Because that awareness, that passion needs to be there. You can't hire a salesperson and expect them to do, because you are shifting the entire mindset from, kill all to coexist. So that is not going to happen. Yeah. With just a product. And so, but what we also need now is functionality wise, performance wise, it's on par with the chemicals or sometimes even better than the chemicals. Yep. So we are banking on that. So we need to talk more about this, just promote this more. And we need more feet on the ground, people who are passionate, who are already eco warriors, who don't need that much of motivation from us, who can run on their own. So this is a collective, typically a collective model that we want to engage in and move forward.
Yeah. And it's a very holistically way of scaling things up as well. Many times one brand controls like every region, like one supply chain, and it's a pipeline business. This is like a platform business where you have the USP of like development of how the actual product work. Yeah. And then there are different guys or people who are interested into it, building it, want to like be an entrepreneur, but don't know where to start and don't want to put in a lot of efforts as well. Sure. That's when they can instantly like gain into this.
So tomorrow, if Hindustan Lever or any one of the other player wants to tap into the bioenzyme market, everything is streamlined.
Yep.
So it's not like we versus them, right? It's not a war.
Right.
It is about giving people the option. Today, that raw material looks very difficult for any industry to make it. So we want to be able to create this entire supply chain and make it available. So whoever wants to play it can easily shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with this model, the price points can work out. If I were to centralize that, the price points will never matter. And we will remain a niche product. And the biggest encouragement for us was NGOs are funding us. Like one NGO is funding another NGO to do this. They are paying us money to do the training.